Hello and welcome to this episode of The Mindset Shift, powered by the Hopper Motor Group. I'm your host, Mark Brunga, and joining me at the desk is the founder of Transition Sports, Darren Hindle. Welcome, Daz.
Thanks, Mark. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, in our first two episodes, we've looked at the story of the man behind Transition Sports, yourself, and we've also discussed the Bully Zero program with their CEO, Andre Cavallo. In this episode, we're back to talking more about transition sports coaching methods and what separates them from other coaching programs. So often coaching programs are one size fits all in their philosophy, but that's not the case with transition sports, is it?
No, we understand that, if we have our own set ways, we're just going to be the same as everyone else. So when players walk in, we can understand who they are. We identify what they need. We give them input on what they need for their own development, their vision. So their dream's our passion, and then we just sort of try and create and navigate our way around each individual while still training within a group environment. So we don't come in here with a set training plan or set things. When they walk in, we say, okay, well, this one might be struggling here, or this train's going to be this way today. So we can just get a feeling about it, and then we start to implement our methodology.
And it's a case of that every individual has their own different way of learning, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can go into all the fancy words, but basically verbal, visual, practical. Some need a hands-on approach. Some need the verbal then the visual. Some have it the other way around. And you really got to pick up on that. And then when we coach too, we ensure that we know how to show it, how to teach it, and why we're teaching it. So we try and give a lot more information about what's behind our methods. So then they get a buy-in, they understand why they're doing it. They're not going home, getting that car going, why did I just do that? I don't really understand, I'm confused. So it's their training, it's their development, they get a full say in it.
So can you give us an example how you might tailor a training program to someone to work with their particular style of learning?
So basically, if everyone comes into our program, we virtually try and get a small assessment. And we're not judging them, they're judging us, what impact we can have with them. But while we're sort of going through the assessment, we're getting to feel where they're at. But we also know a bit of a story behind who they are. They might come here for a confidence issue or an environmental issue within a team or a club, or there's all these different reasons why they come here. The external development, which is dribbling, shooting, is easy. But the internal development is what I think we specialise in, so we focus there first. Understand it, navigate it, and then we go, okay, now let's put that into on-court development. So we have to really identify who they are. And then when we get to find out where they're at, so we'll start getting a bit of some concepts to work with. We don't make it complicated, it's pretty simple. Start get their trust. They know we have the engagement and passion for them, and then the development process becomes very simple.
I just want to sort of focus a little bit on Darren as the coach for a moment, and we just divert a little bit. We know that you coach sporting teams in your own right as well, and it's important that as a coach that you walk the walk and talk the talk.
Sure.
So one of the things that you do with your own teams before the season starts is you have a bit of a discovery session with the players where you sit down and talk with them about their lives and how they're going and get a real feel for the individual. Can you let us into that a little bit more about how it works?
So every team I have, and I have I need to know who they are and where they're from. So we call it D-Day. So it's actually defining who they are, where they're at, and where we're going to go with this group. So we'll go upstairs here at Transition. We sit around table. Now there's questions that would have been sent out prior. And what half these kids don't realise is they're going to actually answer those questions standing up in front of their peers. So we know where the question's going to go and roughly where the answer's going to be, and then we start to formulate a sort of workshop. And then we create our mission, our vision. We create a culture and understand who they are. So it's real, it's raw, there's emotion. We work out what's happened in the past, where they are now, where they want to be as individuals, and then we start to create a team gathering or a team philosophy. We even write a mission, vision, value statement, and that's what we stand by throughout the year. So it's our D-Day, and it's really raw and real. It's amazing what we get out of it, and it's really what gets us kick-started. And then we understand now where do we take this team. We know what we need to do, how to go about it, because we get to understand who they are and what they stand for.
If you look at a group of young men and you know, the focus of things like depression and anxiety and things like that are based around the troubles that young men have expressing themselves, how do you find the key to unlocking that emotional side to them if they're feeling a little bit uncomfortable and it's something new to them in that particular environment, playing, say, basketball or football or whatever the sport might be?
Oh, look, I open up to them first. So they know what I've been through and where I've come from and why I have the drive to do what I do. And this is not about me. I want to make them a better version of themselves from what they were yesterday to where they are today and where they're going to go. So if it comes down to I need a private space, then they'll get a phone call. Let's catch up for a coffee. There's times where, in past scenes, where I've actually invited the girlfriend. We get a bit of a feel where they're at, how they feel, and how we can help make them become better and get through it. And once the team opens up to what each individual is going through, it becomes a lot easier for them to deal with it. And then what we do is we can pick up the pieces or fill the gaps when required. So we do more off-court development than on-court teaching.
So why is that an important aspect of the way that you coach?
Because you want the players to play for you. They need to trust you. So X and O's, anyone can teach them. We all know we can try and win on the scoreboard, but the best way to get the right driven result is to get the kids to inspire and play for you and have a trust that they know you're there for them and they'll be there for you and they'll run for the brick wall for you. If you get that type of cultural feel, the wins will come and development becomes easier. So culture's first.
And one of the important things that you do focus on with transition sports and your own coaching too is that the kids come to you with all sorts of external pressures. So whether it be family problems, problems at school, problems with relationships and all those sorts of things, and they impact on the individual, not only just outside of basketball but also inside sport or anything like that. How do you take that into account when you're coaching someone? Look,
to be fair, I find it easy throughout the season. So we try and carry their emotion. We try and take it away from them, we'll carry it for them, and we'll help it deal with it. So, but what I find difficult, which is probably hard for me, is at the end of the season. So when it comes to the last games, like the last game against Ballarat, we're in the change room, I broke down I was tired, I was run down. It was a very strong year this year with the Supercats we did, Geelong Supercats. We carry a lot of emotions from them, but that's what I'm prepared to do, because if I can do that for them, they get to see it from how they should see it. I'm 46, I'm not that I've lived a life. I hope I've got a few more years left in me.
Yeah, we all do, yes.
But to me, they don't understand it. I've seen things that I don't want them to see. I've been through things I don't want them to go through. So I want them to enjoy why they're there. And that's to play basketball, enjoy it, and hopefully the results just come naturally. Let's take away those things. So I unfortunately carry it. I bear the weight of it, but I then release it once the season's over. So yeah, we just try and take it away from them, take the weight off their shoulders.
Now, Daz, one of the things I've noticed about transition sports is the use of the word culture. How do you go about building that culture within a club, to an individual, a player, a coach, an association as a whole? How do you go about sending that message?
Well, first thing's trust, and they've got to know why you're there. Once they know why I'm there, and it's real, there's compassion, there's empathy, there's support, there's guidance, and there's direction. Once we get all those things in place and we start going to the player, then from the player we go into the team concepts. And once we create that culture, or that formula of culture, it creates a winning formula. Now, that doesn't always mean that we're winning on the scoreboard. It means that we're progressing on the floor, off the court, on the court, in the change room, on the train track, in private space. And then you'll get wins and losses, but sometimes we'll be on a winning run. Some things go, we have our highs and lows. It's like a roller coaster. But when we have the lows, the culture gets stronger, and then it flips back to that winning formula. And then over a progression of time, you'll have more wins and losses. But culture is the core of everything we do and how we do it. In sports, in work, in family life. So it's a word that we use anywhere. And how we nurture that through the process. Look, every group's different, every kid's different. We call it the buy-in factor. Once they're bought into it, they'll believe in it. And once they believe in it, mate, it's just open slowly. We can do so much with it. It's like multiple branches on a tree, it just keeps growing. So more opportunity creates more opportunity. So culture is what gets us there, and that's why I think I've had a pretty winning formula with teams I've coached. Junior level, big V level, even grassroots level.
And just going back to that win-loss sort of scenario, a lot of teams, a lot of coaches put the emphasis on the W column, and whilst you've got to be competitive, the reality is that if your culture is right as an organisation, then during those lean times, that's what's going to save your association or save your team. Or
well, and this win-loss column, like that's on a ladder format, but you can create another win column. That's where you start ticking those boxes. I've made that player better. I've got a little bit more belief within that player. I've now got a player who now trusts the other player. Now I've got a team who's prepared to work together. That's a winning formula. That's a winning column. And then we can actually convert that, or the conversion rate would then go into the win-loss column on the ladder format. And at the end of the season, you'll know what your true wins mean, what your true losses mean, and it doesn't always mean ladder-based. There's another column you can tick. What we achieved, what we didn't achieve, why didn't we achieve it, how can we achieve it better? To me, that's my wins. I'm just lucky that we get the win-loss ratio right anyway from what we do in the other columns.
So when you go into clubs, it can be quite a challenging thing for them, can't it, to actually question their culture and explore and look into ways that their culture might be a little bit deficient and try to improve it. It's a really gutsy thing for clubs to do, isn't it?
Oh, look, it's a fear factor. They've got to look at that. Okay, if we highlight something, it's an awareness or it's a highlight. We're not actually saying you're doing it wrong. We're saying we can probably do it better. We just want to find a better way of doing things. So what they worry about is their accountability. Well, if we were doing it wrong in the first place, does that fall back on us? We say, well, let's park that. Don't worry about what you feel about the past. What can we do better? How can we direct that and help you through that, and then create a more positive environment? Again, it goes back to culture. So once we can turn their mindsets about not worrying about what they think they did or didn't do. That's what they can do, and how we can do it together. It then becomes easier to implement your philosophies or your learnings or your teachings.
I've seen firsthand your work with Geelong in the Super Cats program, and the way that you've been able to bind a group of young men who had talent but were a little bit lacking in direction prior to your arrival, to actually being a group of young men who had grown as young men and also with each other in terms of playing with each other. So is that how you see your role as a coach, to develop the individual first of all, and then to bring that together to make a united sort of team environment?
Oh, absolutely, it's a layers. But one thing I've got to, maybe I don't, it's not that I'm doubting myself or my title, but I'm a mentor, I'm not a coach. And the fact I'm a mentor and I understand basketball and I understand logical thinking with real life learnings to sport learnings and how we can combine it all together, I'm more of a mentor. I mean, these kids know the game. These kids know how to play. I don't need to step on that court and say, guys, it's my way or the highway. And unfortunately, sometimes we go with the wrong approach. They just got to know that I'm going to support them, I'm going to guide them, I'm going to nurture them. But I'm also going to tell them when to focus, serious, have a bit of fun. So I'm more of a guide and mentor. Luckily, I can coach at the same time. So, but yeah, you're right. That's how we go about it. That's our approach.
And coaching can be a difficult thing to juggle, because you've got the aspirations and the dreams of 12 players in that team who all want as much court time as they possibly can and to contribute as much as they can to the team. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. So how do you as a coach go about messaging and talking to those players who may not be necessarily getting what they feel that they should be getting?
Communication, engagement. Now, we just don't leave a player sitting there on idle not knowing what just happened or going home with a question mark. Whether it be a training, game day, minutes, doesn't matter. There's times I get it wrong, and we all get things wrong, and there's a way I try and learn better. But one thing I promise ourselves is we very explain on the D-Day what's happening about minutes averaged, how we manage our players. Minutes don't truly mean how many minutes you play, it's what value we get out of your minutes. Example, it was last year, it was out at Bendigo. We had two players, one scored 23 and one scored, I think, 18. One had played only 18 minutes and one had played 16 minutes. So everyone would have thought, well, why didn't you play them longer? We got the most value in those minutes for that player. Then we had other players who we can bring value with those minutes. So whether we play a player 30 minutes or 22 minutes, we want value for every minute. So once the players understand that, they acknowledge that and know their role, and we maintain communication throughout the whole season. We just don't leave them worrying about where they sit. Some players get a bit confused because they find it hard because they think they probably should be getting more than what they should. You know, all kids will have that struggles. Sometimes we can't help with that, but as long as we can say, well, we keep trying to give the message, we've done our job, but 90% of the time, most kids are understanding and accepting and knowing that it's a team concept. That's why we play team sport. Value for what you do and what you bring to the table, and that's clearly explained.
So in terms of the transition sports coaching methodology and you know, seeing it as more of a mentorship, are they some of the issues that you would help players to work with in terms of if they came to you and said, Darren, look, I don't feel I'm getting enough court time, I think I should be getting more. Are they the sorts of issues that you broach with them?
Yeah, look, and sometimes we've got to be very careful that we're not going to automatically agree that they're right. Because that coach is doing right or wrong by them, or they're not getting.
It's more about teaching them how to cope with that situation.
Yeah, so what we'll say is, well, let's tick your boxes first. Are you giving 100% at everything you do? Every time you step on that court or on the training track or you're sitting on that bench, are you giving 100% value of what you can offer? Perspective view is crucial for us. How it looks is how it looks. So we make sure that, okay, you know what, before we worry about what could be impacting you, what could you do to try and get more minutes? Sometimes we encourage the player to go and speak to the coach. Don't say, coach, can I please have more minutes? Say, how can I bring more value to the team? I need your help. Sometimes that's all it needs, because sometimes a coach isn't aware of what that player's experiencing, what they're feeling. So what they don't know, they don't know. So sometimes we actually encourage a communication connection, and sometimes it has to come from the player, because sometimes a coach may not be aware of it. So that's how we try and get through their mindset and to see it from a different lens. And then we start to put things in place on how we can make them become better, develop them better on the court, off the court, and get a better understanding of what their true role is.
Now, Daz, we've spent a fair bit of time talking about transition sports in a basketball sort of capacity, but it's fair to say that the methodologies and the ideals that you put into place can go right across the sporting gamut. And I understand there's a school that you're involved with here in Melbourne, where you've put the methodology into effect across a number of different sports. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so with the strategic research we do, we go and identify of what kids are struggling with within school sport, because school sport is a little bit different. It's compulsory, which means kids have to engage within the sport. So therefore they've got to be there. Sometimes you've got participants, you've got people who want to develop, and people who just want to just have fun. So we've got to identify how do we navigate our way through the learnings in a school program. So what we're doing down at a school that I'm with, it's a private school, is we're actually identifying what they want out of the program, how we can help within the program, and then how do we start to collectively get the coaches and the kids involved to help implement this process. So it's this school that we've actually got a leadership program. So they're Year 9s, so we're engaging with them at this present time. It's more workshop based. So we actually just start with a clean skin. I mean, I've got some ideas I can go to if I need to, but I'll let them have control of the conversation. I'll know when to direct this way, that way, and to put some ideas into their minds. But we're trying to get kids involved to have a bit more of a say, a bit more of a view. And then what we get out those outcomes out of that is what we put back to the school programs and say this is how we should be probably tackling our sports program.
Private schools can have a bit of a reputation for being quite starchy at times. How does the school encourage the students to have an open environment to talk about the issues that they've got there? I suppose it's a bit like the sporting club sort of opening up to have someone coming in and talk about culture. How do the private schools sort of go with that sort of thing?
While I'm with, I'm very lucky. Like I don't go in there with a plan. You know, we've got to do module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, which then defines the outcome. They're actually letting me go into actually just create something from nothing. And when we create something from nothing, the kids get more of a buy-in, they feel more involved, they have more of a say, their view actually has importance. So this group we did on the last one, we actually gave them a timeline. If we maintain a program like this, how would you like the timeline to look? So every single person put a timeline from that meeting to where they want it to be in 6 months, and when they leave from year 12, what impact would they like to have made within that school? So we're actually giving them a massive say, and they're pretty proud of themselves. But it's amazing what information you get when you get it from direct from the kids involved or the players. But we're all sports covered there.
Yeah, I know from my time at school, and that's going back a few years ago now, I think the tablet was the one that Mohammed brought down from the mountain. I think it was the tablet we had at school back in the day. But back in my day, there was kids who liked sport, and there were those that were more academically minded and didn't like sport. Have you found that working with the school that you're at, that you have those types of situations as well, and how do you bring those kids into the program as well?
Oh, look, to be fair, it's very hard. First of all, you got to make sure the coaches are there to engage, not worry about the pennants or the wins, because these kids aren't choosing the sport because they want to be there. They have to choose a sport out of, say, 10 sports. They have to participate and they have to commit. So I said there's different categories who are just going to participate, ones who have to be there, and the ones who want to develop. So there's 3 categories you've got to try and put together and create an enjoyable development platform in the training. And then on game day, how do we make them commit and engage to compete? It's not easy, to be fair, but where I'm lucky with this school is the coaches we're getting some workshops in the coaches, get a feel where they're at, what they're struggling with, how to identify to merge those categories together. But it's got to be done collectively. And most people come and say, do it this way. No, everyone's putting their views in, we're collecting the information, and that's what we're going to create from that. And that's potentially going to be our platform going forward. So everyone's involved.
So how would you get that buy-in from, say a young student who is simply there because the school says you have to pick a sport and play that sport and commit to it? How do you get them to buy into getting something out of it for themselves?
Sometimes your training has to be impacted. If I've got an hour and a half at a school program to run a training session, I'm not going to get the full hour and a half out of that for the first couple of weeks. First of all, I've got to navigate my way through individuals who I think are going to be the ones I need to engage with. We know ones who are going to be easily to do, so they're just naturally there and they're happy to be a part of it. They're personal one-on-one conversations. I tell them about why I'm there, what I stand for, my values, and that they just trust me to give it a go and see if I can bring enjoyment to the commitment they've got to commit to. So, personal connection, real, raw, and they start to get a trust in you. And for somehow they just want to, let's try it, let's do it. So we ask them, can you please try? And 9 times out of 10 we get engagement.
This is probably a really tough question to answer, but I'm going to give it a crack anyway. How do you measure the success? You've gone into a school or you've gone into a sporting club, you've delivered your services to them and done all the research and looked into everything and put the plans in place. How do you measure your success at the other end?
Look, in a nice, not an arrogant way, I'm not worried about what the club thinks. That's not what the school thinks. When I walk down the street, and the engagement I get with everyone I've been involved with is a hug. It's actually, I love you, appreciate what you do. It's real, it's raw, sometimes it's emotional. But the way they treat you and respect you and treat you when you walk. When I walk into a school, I've got kids yelling at Dazza, how are you? And when I walk into a club, it's a hug, greet, and there's even people I don't even know that give me, hey Dazza, how are you? How's things? And it's embracing. That's my success. That's my winning formula. The other stuff, it's a bonus. But that's how I gauge my winning success at the end.
Well, that leads us to the end of this episode of the Mindset Shift, and leads us beautifully into our next episode, where we'll talk a little bit more about how transition sports may be able to help your association or your club or your school. So Darren, thank you very much for your time again today, and we will catch up with you again on the next episode.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You've been watching the Mindset Shift, powered by the Hopper Motor Group, and we'll see you next time.